Zoom has been getting some bad press recently in the accessibility world for inaccessibility of the Zoom meetings area inside the Zoom app. Basically, the app is bulking up so much with new features. It's becoming harder to navigate, especially on Windows. And we know a good friend of ours, Brian Hartgen, who listens to our show and, of course, runs the incredibly popular Hartgen Consultancy. He has come to the rescue for us all and is here now to tell us more about what he's been doing to help those of us who want to access our meetings more easily. Brian, great to have you back here on Double Tap.
What, again?
I know. That's twice, right? What's going on here?
I know what's going on.
You're starting to become a regular. I like it. Listen, Brian, I've got to ask you about this. I saw the announcement yesterday and I was thinking, wow, this is very interesting. Okay, so Zoom accessible meetings. I have to be honest, I've played around in that particular section of the Zoom app on the Mac and I found it okay, but a little bit challenging. On Windows, though, there seems to be a fair amount of problems, right?
That is right. The Zoom Windows client used to be highly accessible and very easy to use. I'm thinking back to the days of the pandemic when lots of people were using it. But over recent years, the developers have added a lot of extra functionality and also advertisements promoting their various services that you have to dismiss on a regular basis. You know what it's like, Shaun and Steve. The more you add to software, the more bloated it becomes and the more difficult it becomes to navigate. You used to be able to see a list of upcoming meetings, whether they were scheduled even weeks in advance if you wanted to. But now you've got a calendar, and this was introduced at the back end of last year. You have to select the period of time that you want to see, whether that's a week or a month, for example. Then you have to tab a lot of times to find your list of meetings relative to that time that you've selected. And then it's quite a job to get to where you need to be. I hear a lot from Zoom users who are struggling with that, and also the meeting list on the website, which is their other method of you being able to access meetings. Obviously, I did the right thing and I reached out to Zoom. I contacted them, but they didn't quite get why their new interface wasn't particularly accessible and efficient. So that's where we are, I think, in terms of the access.
Okay, but you've got a solution to this, Brian, right?
Of course he has.
Yes, I have. Usually, I do what I've always done, and that is when I've found a problem, I've created a solution. So I've got my own app, which I call the Zoom Accessible Scheduler. And it does a number of things. The first thing it does is it provides you with a very basic list of your upcoming meetings. So it is very basic indeed. It contains items such as the meeting title, so meeting with Steve and Shaun, then the date, the 27th of March, and the time at, say, 2:30. It's a list box. You find the meeting that you want, you press enter to launch that meeting, and away you go. The next thing it does is that it has a full meetings dashboard. So this shows your upcoming meetings. They are created under different headings. You've got like today, and then tomorrow, and then next week, and so on. And you've got there the title, the date and the time of each meeting, the URL to join it, any special text that you've associated with that meeting, a button to edit it, one to delete it, and a further button to email the details out to any recipients that you like. You can also add text, extra text to that email if that's what you want to do. And that makes it very easy for you to email details of the meeting out to anyone who may be interested. And the last thing it does is it contains a very accessible form for creating a meeting. Obviously, I've created this so all the form field labels speak without any ambiguity or confusion. You create the meeting, and you can also email it out directly. As soon as it's created, you can put a whole bunch of recipients in there if you want to, and so the details are emailed out straight away. It's only a little app, But obviously, it took some work to get this to work with Zoom. It's not going to be for everybody, but hopefully, it will meet a need.
Oh, definitely. I think absolutely. I'm interested. Why did you go the way of an app rather than? Was there nothing you could do from a dual script point of view to make the original default Zoom calendar section more accessible, or was it simply just too much work to do it that way, or just impossible?
That's a really good question. And I did start by doing that. And if you have our basic scripts for Zoom, the calendar is accessible, but again, it's one of those things where it isn't particularly quick and easy to navigate. I do accept that. There's only a certain amount that I felt that I could do with it. So I thought this was the better approach, because Zoom do have a full API, an application program interface, and that's what I'm tapping into. There's a lot of power in there, actually, if you sit and study it. And I thought this really was the cleanest way of doing it.
Fantastic. And what are the requirements for someone who's wanting to use this then? So obviously JAWS is a requirement, right?
JAWS is a requirement. You have to have our Zoom scripts as they are at the moment, because that's what it's going to be attached to. Obviously, you have to pay a small fee. I've tried to keep that down as much as I possibly can. The other thing that you will need to do once you have this, and it's going to be released in May of this year, is you will need to log in, first of all, with your Zoom account, email address and password, because obviously it needs to know where to retrieve your meetings from. It needs to know it's you. Now, it's important to say that you're logging in with Zoom. So we don't know the details. We don't know your private details. That's a very important point. So you actually log in with Zoom, and that authenticates it with the app, the accessible scheduler.
Ah, perfect. Okay. And just to clarify something, on those Zoom scripts that you require, is that a separate purchase, or does that come with the Zoom accessible?
No, that's a separate purchase. A lot of people have had those scripts for 5 or 6 years, perhaps even more. And I do update them on a fairly regular basis. But we've never charged anything extra for those at all. So we're not going to charge you again for those. But it's just if people want the accessible scheduler.
Yeah, okay. And how does this fit in with Leasy? If I have Leasy as I do, it doesn't. It's separate. Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. Yeah. And speaking of Leasy, I want to quickly mention as well, because you've got an update coming for the ChatGPT integration, right?
Yes, it's out right now, actually. It was released this morning at the time of recording. So when we last spoke, we talked about the initial kind of iteration of Leasy with ChatGPT. Got a lot of positive feedback about that. People are using it, which is very good. It's all very nice, but it only contained information up to a certain date. So if you wanted to ask it, for example, who won the Oscars last night, or what are the latest news headlines, you couldn't do that because there was a cutoff point. Now you can. So you can ask it pretty much absolutely anything, and it's going to retrieve information from the web if that's what it needs to do.
Oh, that's cool.
Going to be so useful. Absolutely. Now, the question I'm going to ask, Brian.
I know. Here it comes. Where's everybody?
It's coming.
You're going to hate. Okay. Leasy sounds amazing. When can I get it for NVDA?
You won't be able to get it for NVDA.
Oh, Brian. Being serious for a moment, is there a big difference between the scripting when it comes to JAWS and NVDA?
It's not a question of the scripting, but if you think about it, NVDA, whenever people start talking about and using NVDA, they always trumpet the fact that how open source it is. Okay. And that is one of its allegedly unique selling points. Although you don't buy it, but it is open source. Leasy isn't open source, and it never will be. I'm running a business here, and so no, it's not going to be open source, and it won't be available for NVDA. Now, having said that, all it needs is people with imagination and creativity. If they want to create similar features and put them into NVDA, that's for them to do. But as far as we're concerned, no, it's not going to be for NVDA. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's fine. That makes sense. I thought there was an option for purchasing add-ons in the add-on store, but I wasn't sure how that worked for, keeping the code encrypted or secret or whatever it was. So it needs to be open. Yeah, I see that can be a obstacle. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I might be wrong about that, but that's the impression that I get. I'm not an NVDA user, but I'm coming to the last few years of my working life now, and I don't think that I really want to start working with another screen reader at this point.
Don't say things like that, Brian, because look, I'm just getting into Lisi full time here, so don't be telling me you're retiring. That's not allowed. That's not allowed. This is the moment when Willy Wonka has to decide who to hand the factory on to, right?
That's a very good analogy, actually.
Yeah.
Who's got the golden ticket? Stephen, before you start.
I couldn't run it. Trust me, I couldn't do anything. I could barely do my email. But I want to ask you about price. So for people who are buying this, what would they be expecting to pay, Brian?
The cost will be £30, which is approximately 42 US dollars.
Okay, fantastic. And that's available when?
It will be available in May. If you pre-order it, then you will get an early preview of it. So you'll get it before anybody else gets it.
Amazing. And again, thanks for all your work, Brian. It's amazing what you do. And
absolutely.
Long may it continue, even into those retirement years.
Thank you. Well, I'm enjoying listening to the podcast, and thank you very much for providing it every day. How you do it.
Neither do we. But thank you so much, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Good to talk to you.